So Blender 4.4 is here and it's about time I updated my intro course to part 2. So this is going to be the result of this video. We'll talk about modeling this whole scene, texturing it with basic textures, and talk about modifiers such as array, subdivision surface, mirror modifier, and solidify modifier. So assuming you have watched the first video of the series, you should know the basics. If you have not, I highly recommend watching that video, at least the first 30 minutes, so you get the idea about how to navigate the space and use the basic operations like move, grab, scale, rotate, set the camera, use the HDRI and all of that stuff. And we are going to use some modifiers in this video, so that will be the main focus of this one. The installation is pretty simple. You just go to blender.org, download the latest version, open it and go through the steps of installation and it will be installed. You can keep the old version if you want to. I still have Blender 3.6, 4.0, 4.2 and 4.4 installed because sometimes the older files work better with the version they were made with. So I just keep all of the versions till I'm not using any file from the older one, especially the 3.6 as it was a major release. So let's make a new file in the general workspace, and this is how you will be greeted first time opening Blender 4.4. So the first thing I like to do is go to Edit, Preferences, and in the interface increase the resolution scale so it looks a bit better and also it's a bit easier to see for the tutorial. So you don't have to do this, but if you got a big monitor, it's better to increase the scale and see the things properly or clearly. Next, I'm going to just install an extension to show you the buttons that I press, but this is totally optional and you don't have to do it. So I'll go to Get Extensions and it will ask you that you need to give an online access to find extensions online. And you can continue using offline as well and install the extensions and add-ons like the older versions. Just download them from the website and install from the disk, but I just allow it online access, and then it can check all the extensions that are available on this repository extensions.blender.org, and it can download and install it directly. You can see these are the ones I have installed, but for the sake of tutorial, I'll just uninstall everything and install as we go. So I just need screencast keys from this one and I'll hit install and it will be installed. So now we are ready to use the screencast keys. So I'll just quickly enable the screencast keys so you can see them, and I'll just move it out of the way. So this much is good, I think, and you can see all the clicks and key presses that I make from here. So let's start making the actual scene. Just as usual, we are going to go in the modeling workspace, put the cursor over onto the left top corner till it turns into a plus sign or a crosshair, and just click and drag a new window out of there. You'll notice that Blender 4.4 has improved it and you can now actually see a clear division as to where your new workspace is going to be. So click this, and on this workspace press numpad 0 and it will go into the camera mode. So I'm just going to click on the camera and go into the scene properties, actually in the output properties, and select and drag on both of these and change this to 1080 pixel. So now we have a square image that can be used on Instagram or any image sharing platform majorly. Also, let's hide this and this from this side. So you press T to hide this one, and for this, if you have the N panel here, you cannot hide it from any clicks. You just need to press N and it will hide it. For hiding this, you can scroll on this bar and click on this button and it will hide everything, or you can just keep it here. Now I'll just adjust the camera and just leave it here so we can see the room from the camera perspective as well. And I'll hide the camera from this, and I'll also hide the light for now. Next, let's start with the actual room. So click on the cube to select it, G, Z1 to move it up by 1 meters. As we all know, the default cube is 2 by 2 meters and its center is at the origin. So we need to move it by 1 meter up in the Z direction so that its base is at the origin or the floor. So now we are going to delete these three faces which are facing the camera so we can make a room. So press tab to go into edit mode, select this face. To select faces, you need to be in the face selection mode. Currently we are in the vertex selection mode, so press 2 for edge selection, 3 for face selection and 1 for point selection mode. So 3 for face selection mode, and now click this, shift click this and shift click this. But you'll notice that this face is not selected, so we are actually this side of the camera, so it's not selecting the correct faces. And if we delete these faces by pressing X and faces, it will actually delete the opposite face that we want to delete. So let's Ctrl Z to undo and move our viewport to this side. You can press and hold middle mouse button and rotate or drag the mouse to rotate the viewport. So I'll just click to deselect everything, select this face, this face, this face, and you'll notice that these three are selected. So press X and faces to delete these faces. Now to see things better, you can also press 5 and go into the orthographic view. It looks a bit better than the perspective, I think personally. So I prefer to keep this on and switch between this and the perspective on the go as well. The shortcut is number pad 5. So now we have the base of the room ready. Let's give it our first ever modifier, that is the Solidify modifier. So what the Solidify modifier does is give thickness to these walls. Currently they are paper thin, so we don't want that. We actually want a little thickness to this. So let's press plus to add modifier, generate and a Solidify modifier. You can also just click and search, start typing directly and search Solidify and click it, but I remember it's in generate and you should too. So here you can go through the whole process. So now you'll see it does not change a lot because the thickness is not much. So you can increase the thickness so that the thickness of the walls increases, and you can also change the offset to change the direction where the faces are going. So I'll just change the offset to 1, so it's going outwards. Next thing you'll notice is that the thickness does not seem equal on this side and this side. So if we press numpad 3 to go on the side view, it's actually not equal. So it's a little less on this side and it's higher on this side. So this and this is not equal. So what we're going to do is to change this setting here that says even thickness and click it. So now we have even thickness all around the edges. So now we can also reduce this distance. Let's keep it 0.2 meters and I think it looks good. And the base of our room is ready. Press tab to go out of edit mode, go into object mode, and now let's add other things to the room. Press shift A, mesh and plane as usual to add a plane. Tab to go into edit mode, S to scale. Just move your mouse inwards and it will scale inwards. Let's keep it around this size, and this will be our rug for the table. So you can add a Solidify modifier to it to bring it upwards, or you can also, while the face is selected, press E and extrude it just a little bit up, and it's got some thickness as well as it won't interfere with the floor. So if I just undo it for a moment, you'll notice that there is some artifacting going on. So this usually happens when two faces are directly sitting on top of each other, so Blender does not know which face to prioritize while rendering. So you can either G and Z to move it a little upwards so it knows it's in the front, or what you can do is go into tab into edit mode and select this face and E and extrude it a little upwards, which also gives it a little thickness and it looks a bit better than just a random plane lying on the floor. Next we are going to add our sofa like last time, but this time we'll be using a mirror modifier. So I'll just quickly create a collection here, right click new collection, double click to name it, and let's name it objects, and select all of the objects, press M to move it to new collection, and let's move them to objects. Now we can hide this collection whenever we want to. So let's hide both of these for a moment from this I button right here or the shortcut H, and let's look at how the mirror modifier works, and let's make a sofa out of it. So I'll press Shift plus A, mesh, and add a cube. Now let's go into the front view by pressing 1 on the numpad, and let's add a mirror modifier. It's going into add modifier, generate, and mirror. So you'll notice nothing has changed at all, but if you go to tab into edit mode and select this face and change it, you will notice that it is mirroring whatever you are doing onto the other side as well. One thing you'll notice is that we did a mirror modifier, so we expect that this face is mirroring to this face, but since we had our cube on the center or the origin, it has double geometry now, so we don't want that. We actually wanted an object that we just model on one side and it mirrors the same thing onto the other side, not like this where it has double the faces. So what you can actually do is go into the front view and let's say select this face and press G and X to move it onto the X axis. Go to the front view again and move it like this and select this face, bring it down, and now you have an object that will work like you want, but it's a bit too much to do. So what you can do is, there are two methods to do it. First is the manual, and then there's a quicker and faster method that I use personally. So let's see both of them. So I'll just select and delete this cube. So let's add another one. Press Shift A, mesh, and cube to add a cube. And what we want to do is delete all the geometry on one side of the axis where we want to mirror things. So press 1 to go into front view, tab to go into edit mode, and we'll add a loop cut like in the last video. Press Ctrl R, go near the edge and add a control loop or loop cut here. Right click to confirm it at the center, and now we have extra geometry. So now if we go to front view, go into this X-ray mode and select all of these faces or points, or you can just not go into the X-ray mode and just select this face and delete it by pressing X and faces, and delete these 4 as well. So select all the loop by pressing Alt and left click, and all the loop is selected, and press X and faces to delete everything. Now we have only one side of the geometry. So now if we go to add modifier, generate, and a mirror modifier, you will see that we have only one side of the geometry to work with, and it's working perfectly as expected. Just one thing extra that we need to add is we don't want the faces to go apart or rip apart when we do move them. So what we are going to do is enable clipping, and now if we move this face, the center stays where it is, so it's connected always, and the faces on the other side can do their own thing. The center won't be affected, but in case you do want to separate these faces, you will need to turn off clipping and then you can move them. So this is the first and lengthier method, and sometimes the shape is complex and you've already made it and you want to make a mirror modifier, so you cannot go on adding loop cuts in the center and deleting the geometry. So what I like to do is use a default add-on that comes pre-installed with Blender. You just have to enable it, go to edit, preferences, add-ons, and let's search for mirror. So it's not in add-ons right now. Let's go into extensions and let's search for mirror. So you'll know you'll see auto mirror in the extensions and you just click to install it. And it is installed. While we are here, we'll also install loop tools, which we'll be using hopefully in this tutorial. So let's install it. It's a really cool add-on which I use almost for all objects. So just turn it on and install it for now, and let's see if we'll use it in this tutorial or not. So just install loop tools for now and close this. So it's also a good time to save our file. So go to File, Save, and it will ask you where to save it and what to name it. So I'll just quickly save it. I'll name it 4.4 Isometric Room and 1, and click Save Blender File. Now it's saved. So let's see how the auto mirror works now. So I'll just keep this here and just hide it for a moment, and let's add another cube. So press Shift A, Mesh and Cube to add a cube. And now let's see how the auto mirror works. So while you're in the object mode, go to this N panel or properties panel. You can also open it using the N shortcut key and go into edit, and then you'll see auto mirror. So if you just open it or expand it, you will see some quick options here. So all you have to do right now in our case is to press auto mirror. You'll see that its orientation is along x-axis, so it will mirror on the x-axis or this axis, and it's positive. So it will keep the positive side or the right side. If we see from the front view, it will keep this side and delete this side because the cut and mirror is on. So it will automatically cut the object at the origin and then mirror it. Or also it enables clipping, so its use clip is on already, and you can also apply the modifier from here, but it's mostly never needed to apply it directly. So in short, you just keep it on the default settings and just change the mirror axis if you ever want to. But in our case, we need the x-axis, so we'll just keep everything on default, click on auto mirror, and it's already done. You don't see any changes because it's a perfect replica on that side. So if we press tab to go into edit mode, you will see that we get the same result as earlier. Clipping is on, axis is X, and there's no geometry on the left side. So it's just a bit easier to work with symmetrical objects like tables, sofa, TVs, and other things that are going to be mirrored on one side. You can just keep working on one side and the other side is going to be developed automatically. So let's recap and press X to delete. And now let's turn on the cube and the plane that we had in the scene. I'll also delete this extra cube that we made for the tutorial. We're not going to need it. So now let's add the cube and make the sofa. So press Shift A, Mesh, Cube, and the cube is added. Keep the default settings, click auto mirror, and it is mirrored as we can see in the edit mode. So let's scale it down. Press tab to edit, A to select everything, and S to scale. And now tab to go out of edit mode again, and we are going to move it this side and this side. Now it's not usually very quick to press G and Y and then move it here and then G and Z to move it up. You can just instead do is click on this gizmo and enable the move gizmo. So now you can see there's a move gizmo or 3 arrows on every object you click. So you can just quickly manipulate and grab and move objects wherever you want to. So let's just undo what I just did there. So now we have our sofa at the perfect position. So let's actually model it. Now you can press the slash key on your keyboard to go into the isolated object mode. So let's say you want to keep the objects in the scene and don't want to hide them, but you want to work solely on this object. So you just need to press the / key and it will go into the isolation mode and just give you the local view of the object. And let's see it from the front side. press 1 to go into the front view. Press tab to go into edit mode, and you'll notice that the gizmos are still here. So there's a different setting for edit mode as well, but it's on. So we are seeing it in edit mode as well. Now let's grab this face and move it a little inside and select this face and move it a little down. I think this will be our seat for the sofa and I'm happy with it. So let's now make the back side of the sofa. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this face and make a higher section using this. So select this face, make sure you're in the face selection mode, press Shift D to duplicate and press Y to move it in the Y direction. Now you just move your mouse and move it a little outwards. Next, go into the edge selection mode, select this edge and move it a little up. Next, go into the face selection mode again, just remember 1, 2, 3 for the shortcuts, press and select this face, E to extrude, and it will extrude in the perpendicular or normal direction. So just extrude it on the Z axis as much as you like and click to confirm the extrusion, and that makes the back side of the sofa. Lastly, we are going to add a side armrest. So let's click on this face and duplicate this time and duplicate it this time. So press Shift D to duplicate, X to move it in the X direction and move it just a little and click to confirm. Select this edge by going into edge selection mode, move it to the out or in the Y axis, select the face again in the face selection mode and E to extrude again. Now you can adjust the dimensions if you want to, like I think it's a bit too lengthy like in this direction, so I'll select this face, shift click to select this face as well and just move it a little inwards. Also I'll select this face and move it a little up so it looks a bit better. So I think yes, that will be our sofa. So let's move on to making the table. I'll just stay in the local view and just add a table. So press Shift A, mesh and plane and tab to go into edit mode, S to scale, scale it inwards, click to confirm, tab to go out of edit mode again, and let's move this a little up. So you can also always look at this side of the screen to see how your scene is looking. So to adjust this camera, let's click on the camera, unhide it if you want to, select it and then go to the camera settings, camera data from here, and then change the type to orthographic, which is actually how the isometric room will work. And now let's adjust the scale so that we can zoom in a little on the room. To move it up, let's hover our mouse onto this side, and while the camera is selected, you'll notice a orange border. If something else is selected, it will have the orange border. So we need to select the camera, come on to this side and press G and Z and move it a little upwards and adjust the scale again if needed. So I think this much is good, and that is all we need to look at it from a better view. So now let's get back onto our table. So to give the thickness to the table, press tab into edit mode, select the face and E and extrude it upwards. So now we have the thickness, and for the legs of the table, this time we'll use a mirror modifier. So let's add another plane. Let's not do it in the object mode though, we'll add it in the edit mode. So press tab to go into edit mode and we'll add another plane here, press Shift D and plane, but let's just use the auto mirror modifier as well. So just go into object mode again and click auto mirror to make a cut and add a mirror modifier automatically. So now if I go into edit mode, you will see that we only have to add 2 legs and the other 2 will be added automatically. So let's just duplicate this face, press Shift D and Z to move it in the Z direction and you will notice that we have successfully duplicated this face. Now to make a leg, you need to scale it down and scale it from here as well, but you will notice that we cannot actually move it to this side without having it connected here. So we actually need the leg just to be here, but we cannot actually disconnect it from here because the clipping is on. So just turn off clipping, select this edge in the edge selection mode, and now you can move it to the side. So this is how you make something disconnected from the center. Just make sure to enable clipping again so that you don't accidentally move the table from the center and a gap appears in the center. So now we have something extra to add geometry to. So let's select this face and let's move it down below the table, and let's press E to extrude and Z to go downwards. Now we cannot see it properly from this side, so I'll press 1 or press 3 in this case, and we'll see that we need to move it a little more down. So all of the table is a little up, so I'm going to select everything and move it down. But you will notice that it gives a hut shape, so something went wrong. So when we selected everything, we did not actually select everything. Let me just undo. So you'll notice that only these two faces were selected, but I selected dragged like this to select everything. So what happened? We were not in the X-ray mode, so the faces that were not visible onto the camera were not being selected. So as discussed in the last video, to select the hidden geometry, we need to be in the X-ray mode. So let's press 3 to go into the side view again, and before selecting everything this time, let's turn on the X-ray. So the shortcut is Alt and Z, or you can turn it on from here. Just make sure to go to this side, right side. If it's hidden, you just go up to here with your mouse and scroll down till the bar is appeared, or you can just click and drag with the middle mouse button on this as well. So toggle X-ray. Now you'll see if we drag, we have selected everything successfully, but we don't want to select everything as well. So I'll just go into the vertex selection mode, select all the top faces and move it down. Now I'm also going to select these two and move them up, so we have the leg properly in the table. I just turned off the X-ray mode, by the way, by the toggle Alt C. So we need 2 more legs. So let's go into the side view again and try to duplicate this again. So press Alt Z to go into the X-ray mode again, select all these and press Shift D to duplicate and Y to move them in the Y direction, and let's just place it somewhere around here. Press Tab to go out of edit mode, and now you will see that we have successfully created a table using only one side and a mirror modifier. Now in an advanced mode, you can also add another mirror modifier or enable X and Y both in this and just model one side of the table with one leg, and it will be mirrored to this side and then to that side as well. But I just prefer to do it this way and keep the modifier in only one axis to keep things simple. So I just noticed another thing, that our sofa is a little too high, so I'm just going to move it a little down. About this much is okay. So now the table is a little too high, so I'm just going to scale it down. S to scale, mouse to move it inwards, and then just move it down again. About this much is okay. So now press the / again to go out of the local view, and our whole scene has appeared. So I'll just press N to hide this panel, and now we can start adding more things to it. So now let's look at our third modifier, that is the subdivision surface modifier. So let's see first how it works, and then we'll make a simple cactus plant using that modifier. So I'll just hide everything again these two did not hide because they are not in the objects collection. So I'll just select these all, press M to move it into the objects collection. So now let's add a cube, press Shift A, mesh and cube. Now let's see how a subdivision surface modifier affects it. So press here to add modifier, generate and a subdivision surface modifier. Let's go into the front view and see what's happening. So if I press tab to go into the edit mode, you'll see that this is our original cube and this is how it appears right now. So what is actually happening? If I reduce the viewport level to 0, the cube appears again. If I add a level of 1, the cube turns into something similar to a ball, but a very rough ball. So let's move it to 2 and now it smooths out even more. So what's actually happening is, let's keep it to 1 to explain it. So what it's doing is, it is taking this one face and dividing it 1 times. So one face divided 1 times turns it into 4 faces. So I'll explain it with a plane. So press Shift A, mesh, and you don't have to do this. This is just for the explanation part. So let's tab into edit mode and let's assume this face is similar to this top face of the cube. So what I'll do is tab into edit mode and press right click and subdivide. So if I subdivide it, you'll notice that it added 2 loop cuts, so it subdivided it 1 time. You can also open this small properties dialog and see the number of cuts is 1. So it subdivided it 1 time, but it actually created 4 faces. 1 cut this side, 1 cut this side, and 4 faces were created. Now if I just select this vertex at the center and move it up, you will notice that it makes something similar to this, what is happening here, but instead of moving up, it is moving the right side down. So what I mean by that is, it's dividing all of these faces into 4 parts and then it's averaging it out. So it just takes this face and it is just averaging it out after dividing it into multiple faces. So since every face is divided into 4 parts, so there is like 2 edges to work with here. So this edge turns to this thing and this edge turns to this thing. So it's actually taking a corner and averaging it out. If you increase the subdivision to 2, it's adding just 2 more faces inside. So now instead of this, you have 2 more faces instead of 1. So if we just keep on increasing, it will get close to a perfect sphere. But keep in mind that all of this is adding extra faces. 1 face turned into 4 for just 1 level of subdivision surface. So if we keep adding, it keeps on increasing the face count by 4 times. So you want to keep the subdivision level to 2 or 3 to keep the surfaces smooth and not blow up your system. It's really heavy on the system. That is what I mean to say. So let me just delete all of this. And select the subdivision back to 1. Or let's just keep it 2 and it looks smooth enough. So now the trick to get it even more smooth is go out into object mode again by pressing tab, right click and click on shade smooth. So now you will see that the faces are not looking flat anymore and we've got this smooth shading onto it. So since the first cube that we use is a little too low poly, that means it just had only 6 faces, top, bottom, left, right and front, back. So it looks a bit like polygonal or low poly even with 2 levels of modifier. So if you want, you can add 1 more as well, or what you can do is add 1 subsurface modifier, subdivision surface modifier or subsurface modifier and apply it, and then add another one. So now it's at 2, it's a bit smoother, so it's better. Also, let's just remove it for a minute. You'll notice that when you apply the modifier, the current shape that was achieved with the modifier is set permanently. So let's just delete it again. Press Shift A, mesh cube to add a cube, and add modifier, generate, and subdivision surface modifier. Now it is at level 1. I'll just duplicate it with Shift D, X, and move it here, and I'll keep the subdivisions on this one to 2. So you'll notice that these two are different, and we can just right click shade smooth, right click shade smooth. This one looks a lot better, this one looks a little less better, and let's, for testing, just do another one and make it 3. Now if we apply a modifier to this, let's also add a default cube with no modifier as well and keep it at shade flat. So if we keep the cube like it was, press tab into edit mode, you will see that it has 6 faces. Now Blender gives the information on how many faces and vertices you have. I usually turn it on. So to turn it on, go to edit, preferences. In the interface, you go to status bar and you can do scene statistics. You can also do other things like the animation duration, system memory, how much memory it's using, and video memory or RAM. But let's just keep this off. You can also turn off Blender version from here and extensions / updates from here as well. So just close it again. So now you will see that this whole thing has 8 vertices, 12 edges, and 6 faces. So I'll just tab out of it and go into edit into this mode. So now you will see this also has 6 faces. So let's just apply the modifier, and you'll notice one thing, that you cannot apply modifiers while in edit mode. So you'll need to tab out of edit mode and click here and apply the modifier. Now if we go into edit mode again and select everything, you'll notice that we have 48 edges and 24 faces instead of these 6. So this has 6, so into 4 is 24 faces. Similarly for this one, if we apply it, it has 96 faces, and for the last one with 3 levels of subdivision, it has 384 faces. So keep this in mind when you subdivide large objects or complex objects. It will make them smooth, but it will increase the face amount by 4 times for each level of subdivision. So just keep it or use it in moderation, or just start from 1 and see if your PC can handle it, and then increase it. So let's just delete everything and see another cool thing about this modifier. So let's press Shift A, mesh, and cube to add a cube again, and this time let's use a shortcut to apply the subdivision surface modifier, which is Control and 1, 2, or 3. So Control and 2 will give you a level 2 subdivision surface modifier. Right click and shade smooth. So now let's go into the front view, go into edit mode, and press S and Z to scale it up in the Z direction. Now you will notice that we have scaled it up, but it looks more like an oval. So this is the total shape up to here, but it's only coming up to here. Same for the bottom, and if we look at it from the other side, it's same as well. So what if we need it starting not from here but from here, like a smooth cylindrical rod with a curved front or the last end? So for that, what we need to add is called a control loop. So we go into tab, into edit mode, and you already know how to do it. It's just a loop cut placed where we want the subdivision to work up to. So let's Control R and hover over this edge, and you'll see a yellow line is being added. Let's click to confirm, and then let's move it up. So you'll notice that, let's click to confirm it here. Now you will notice that it is straight up to here, and then from this point it is moving or averaging out. So why is this happening? If we press tab to go into edit mode, we can see the original shape from here. So let's see what's happening actually. If you remember the original diagram, so what it's doing is it's taking this face and this face and averaging it out like this. But for this and this, there's no face to actually bend. It's bending around here like this up to here. But for this and this, like between this and this face, they're almost on the same plane. So it has nothing to bend or to average out. So this is why this and this is almost in a straight line. So let's say we were to add another control loop here. So press Ctrl R and add a loop cut and move it down. Now you'll notice that it works similarly on both the sides. So since we have one face here, one face here, one face here, and one face here, there's nothing to average out between these two. So since they're on the same plane, there's nothing angled to average, so it stays flat. But this and this face are almost at 90 degrees, so they are averaged out like this. And this one is shorter, so this is less averaged on here and more averaged from here. So if it was like this, it would have been a perfect circle, but it's like this and this, so it is being averaged out like this. So I hope this makes sense. But you don't need to know all of these technicalities to know how it works. Just know that control loops are something we use to control the subdivision curveness, you can say. So let's delete this and make a cactus using this whole technique. So press Shift A, Mesh and Plane to add a mesh. Tab to go into edit mode, S to scale it down, E to extrude, I to inset, and E to extrude inside again. Now what we'll do is we'll add a cactus shape thing. So let's press Shift A, Mesh, and let's add a plane again. Tab to go into edit mode, S to scale, and we cannot see it anymore, so we need to go into the X-ray mode. So now we can see it. So let's press E to extrude it up, and let's leave it at that, and press Tab to edit. Go out of edit mode, turn off the X-ray mode using Alt Z, and now let's add a subdivision modifier on it. So if you remember the shortcut, it was Ctrl 2. So let's tab into edit mode and add one control loop by pressing Ctrl R. Click and move it a little up. So the shape is like, so the shape goes like curvier from the bottom and flattens out around this much near the control loop. You can control how much it affects it by moving the control loop up and down. So let's keep it around this much and right click and shade smooth. Now let's add two more branches. So I'll go into front view, tab to edit, press A to select everything, Shift D to duplicate it, X to move it in the X direction, and I'll press R to rotate it and S to scale. Now we'll just place it around. About here, I think. And we'll duplicate this again. Shift D to duplicate, X to move it in the X direction, R to rotate again, S to scale, and move it about here. Now don't forget to move it in the Y direction also, so it does not look very flat. So you can go 7, press 7 to go into the top view, or press the Z axis here to go into the top view, and you can actually rotate it from the top view and move something like this. So I think this is good, and our happy cactus with arms waving up is ready. So let's turn on our room again and see the size of it. So it's actually quite large. So I'm going to select the pot and select the cactus by shift clicking it and press S and scale about this much, and then let's move it to here. Now if you remember the first video, I don't remember even if I talked about this or not, you don't actually scale things in the object mode because it messes up with the scale. Obviously you'll see that this has a scale of 0.4, and let's, for example, we also scaled this in object mode, so this is also scaled. This is at 1, this is at 1. So anything that you scale in edit mode stays at a scale of 1. Anything that you scale in object mode changes scale. So if I go into edit mode and scale it, it does not change the scale, but if I scale it in object mode, it changes the scale. The reason why you don't want to do it in the object mode is that these scales, or the scale here, changes how the modifiers work and certain operations as well. So if you have scaled it, just press Ctrl A and apply the scale, so it's set back to 1. Similarly, let's do this for the pot, Ctrl A and scale, and let's do it for the table as well. And the sofa is already at a scale of 1. So let's add some more objects and then we'll move on to the texturing part. So I'll just select these two and move it to the objects collection as well. And you'll notice that our objects are not actually being made in the objects collection, which shouldn't be the case, because if we, let's say, add a new cube, it's outside this collection, but we want it to be inside. So if you just click on this button or this collection, it is now set as the active collection. So now if we add anything, let's say we add a UV sphere, it's actually added inside the objects collection, which is what we actually want. So let's hide this camera and let's make some more objects, starting with the simple bookshelf. So press Shift A, mesh, and add a plane, tab into edit mode and S to scale. And remember, when you can't see things, it's because they are hidden, so just enable X-ray mode and they are visible again. Tab to go out of edit mode, move it to about this location, tab to go into edit mode again, and I'll scale on the Y direction only and a little bit on the X direction, and then place it around here. So now what we are going to do is extrude it upwards and make a small cupboard out of it. So tab to go into edit mode, select the face while in the face selection mode, E to extrude and E to extrude again. Now the reason I did this two-part extrusion is because I wanted a loop cut around this geometry or extra geometry around here. You can also just undo and E and extrude to something like this, and then Ctrl R to get a loop cut and right click to confirm the location. This is actually better as it gives you equal distance between this and this edge. The reason why I want to do this is because I want to make a shelf or a bookshelf and I want to inset these faces. So let's press 3 to go to face selection mode, select this, shift click this and I to inset. Now you'll notice that these both are insetting together. We don't want that, we want individual insets. So I'll press I again. Now they are insetting individually. So move and adjust it with your mouse and while the faces are selected, press E to extrude and move your mouse backwards and just place it by left clicking. Now you cannot see how much inside or in depth are these, so we can go into the right view mode and enable X-ray mode again, and now you will notice that these are this much, so which is fairly accurate. I think if you, let's say, go past the actual geometry, you can just move them inside, or if you were way off, you can just move them to this much. So just remember to turn off X-ray mode or it will look weird. So turn it off and a bookshelf, small bookshelf is ready. Let's add another one here. So I'll do the same thing again and it will work as a revision as well. So Shift A, Mesh, Plane, Tab to edit mode, S to scale this much, Alt Z to go into X-ray mode, E to extrude, and this time we want a longer shelf, so I'll do this much, A to select everything, S and X to scale in the X direction. Tab to go out of edit mode, Alt Z to toggle X-ray and move it in the desired location. Let's scale it down. One thing you'll notice is that if you if you scale in edit mode, everything is scaled based off its center point. So the object origin was here, but the object is now here. So just move it down near the object location or the object origin. So it looks a bit too close to the sofa, so let's just click on the sofa, click on the table, shift click on the table and shift click on the rug and move these a little towards this side. That will also actually cover the room and make way for our bookshelf as well. So tab into edit mode, press Ctrl R to add a loop cut here, scroll up to get 2 loops, click to confirm and right click to reset location, 3 to go into face select mode, click, shift click, I to insert, and it's already in the individual select mode from our last time, but if it's like this, you just have to press I to turn on or off the individual. So let's keep it around this much, and E to extrude, and you can also notice when it goes past the original geometry. So you can see the yellow faces, orange faces up to here, and then they disappear, which means that we have actually gone past the last wall of the cupboard. So let's keep it around this much and we are done. Next, let's add some chairs, simple chairs. Press Shift A, Mesh, and let's add a plane. Press / to go into the isolated or local view. Press Tab to scale, press Tab to go into edit mode, S to scale, scale it inwards about this much and move it up. You can also see the whole scene from here and zoom in as well if you want to. Tab to edit mode, S to scale again, and E to extrude a little upwards. Now we actually want a chair with 4 legs, so it would have been better if we have just taken the table and duplicated it to make the chair legs. Add the chairs in the legs individually this time. So press Shift A, Mesh, and let's add a circle this time. So circle, and you will notice that it's quite big. So to change that and to also change the resolution of the circle, click on this, add circle, and let's reduce the vertices. You'll see that it can go lowest to 3, which makes it a triangle, then a square, pentagon, hexagon, and so on. So let's just make it 8, or let's just keep it 16, and let's reduce the radius to around 0.04 meters if you're following the exact tutorial. So one thing I forgot to mention is if you add a circle and then you click off screen, you will not get that dialog or the properties panel. And if you remember, you can press F9 to bring it back until you have not performed any other operation. So if you have done anything else like moving the circle or the chair or anything else, the F9 will give you just the last dialog box that was there. So just keep in mind. So let's just delete the circles and let's add them back again. So press Shift A, Mesh and Circle, and it will remember the last settings that we used. So it will make a small circle for us. So let's move it around this much, and let's go into the top view this time to see where it's placed. So press 7 to go into top view, and let's just move it around here. To see it better, you can always go into the X-ray mode, which is Alt and Z. So let's tab into edit mode and S to scale, and let's keep it around that. So now what we'll need to do is extrude a leg from here. So press tab to go into edit mode, and if you extrude it, you will notice that it does not work very well because we are in the face select mode and there's no face actually in it. So what we need to add a face is, while everything is selected in the edge select mode, press F and it will fill in the face if it's a connected loop. So just remember for now that if you have a circle, you can select all the edges and press F to fill it in with a face. So now that the face is selected, we can go to face select mode and press E to extrude it up to the chair. Just make sure you don't go past the chair, just around here. And you can right click and shade smooth, or you can shade auto smooth as well. 4.4 Blender 4.4 takes some time for the auto smooth to work, but once it works, it will look better than this. So now it is shaded auto smooth. Now let's add a mirror modifier to it. So go into the modifiers, add modifier, generate and mirror modifier. Now you will notice that nothing worked, but you can see a slight line here. So it is mirroring on the x-axis, but what's happening is it's mirroring around this center point of the object. So it is mirroring, but it's mirroring around this line or this point, so we cannot see anything. So let's change the mirror object. So here is the mirror object. Let's select this eyedropper tool and select this plane as our mirror plane. Now it will mirror across this object. Now we don't need to add another modifier to add the legs to this side. We just need to click on this y-axis and it will be mirrored onto the other side. So I just noticed that this chair is a little too high. So I'll just go into edit mode. I'll just move this seat down and press and select the chairs, tab into edit mode and just move this face down as well. So it looks a little better. Now the reason why I didn't do it for the table is, if you select the table and move it with G, you can see that everything is connected. But if you move this, all of the orientation of the legs is wrong, and if you move this, the legs move individually and it does not stay with the table. So what we need to do in this case is to let Blender know that something has a relation with another object, which is usually a parent-child relationship. So one object will be the parent and other will be the child. So the child always follows the parent. So what we need to do is select this object, shift click this object, and you will notice that this one is red and this one is orange. So in Blender, the orange is the active object. So now you press Ctrl P. This is a new thing for this tutorial. So press Ctrl P and you will have a dialog box which is set parent to. So just ignore all of these options for now. Just select the object and now this is parented to this. You'll also notice that there is a line, dotted line connecting this to this, which means this is connected to this in some way. So now you know that this and this has a child parent relationship, but what did it actually achieve? Now if you try to move this, it actually is still broken, so it does not move with the chair as we intended. But if you move this, you'll notice that the legs somehow magically move with the chair base. So you can just move this around, and as long as you don't move these, the chair will stay intact and the modifier, the mirror modifier, will not break. So this is how or why we did this thing. So now let's improve the chair quality a little. Select this one, tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, and S to scale, and scale it a little bit more. Now I'll go into the side view and I will duplicate this whole thing. So press Shift D to duplicate, Z to move it up, and you will notice here that we have a duplicate now. And while in this view, press R to rotate and it will be locked in the X direction, or you can press X also to lock it in the X direction. And let's rotate it to about this much by seeing from here, and let's just move it to about here. And I think our chair is done, but let's also add a subdivision surface modifier on this. So add modifier, generate and subdi, and you'll notice that it almost broke our chair. So what happened here? Since the thickness of the chair was very low, when it averaged it out, it's almost made flat. It's almost turned flat. So in this case, we need to add loop cuts or control loops and tell Blender that we don't need to flatten the thickness around this much. So first of all, let's make it 2, the level of subdivision to 2, and press tab to go into edit mode again. So let's fix first the base and then we'll go on to fixing the backrest. So press Ctrl R and hover around this edge and add a loop cut and right click to reset it location to the center. Similarly do this for this side, Ctrl R to add a loop cut, click to confirm and right click to confirm the location. Now you'll see that we have fixed the curvature of the things, so it's not going like completely circle from here, it's going like flat from here and then curves around from here. Now we need to do the same for the side. So what we'll do, we'll just add another loop cut. So Ctrl R and instead of 1 this time we'll add 2. Click to confirm and right click to confirm location or reset location. So now you will see that our chair is making shape, is taking shape. So right click and shade smooth, and the base already looks better. Let's do it for the backrest also. Press tab to go into edit mode and let's add a loop cut along this edge, Ctrl R and this edge. And now what I want to do is I want to keep the top shape in curved and the bottom shape a little bit flatter like this one. So we'll not add one loop cut in the center, but we'll add a loop cut and move it down. So first let's add 2 loop cuts on the side to fix the thickness. So Ctrl R double by scrolling your mouse up and click to confirm and right click to reset location. And now what we'll do is we'll add a loop cut in such a way that the top is curved more and the bottom is curved less. So press anywhere out to move out of the selections, Ctrl R to add loop cut, click to confirm loop cut, and we will move it down about this much. So now you will see that the top part is more curved and the bottom part is less curved, which is what we wanted. So you can always, as I said earlier, the original plane or cube is very low poly, so you can always go to up to 3 levels of subdivision, or what you can do is you can keep the viewport to 2 so it does not go heavy in your scene, but you can increase the render subdivisions to 3. So when it renders out, it takes 3 levels of subdivisions, but for the viewport, when we are in viewport just looking at it, it will take only 2, which helps optimizing the scene. So the legs I think are still too thick, so tab into edit mode, A to select everything, S and shift Z to scale this time to keep the Z axis out of consideration of the scale, and just scale it a little bit thin. So I think that's good. And now let's move it to the side by looking here and rotate it like this. Press / to go out of the local mode. Now I want another chair, so I want to duplicate it. So let's shift D to duplicate and press. Now you'll notice that the parent is duplicated but the child is not duplicated. So let's not duplicate it like this. Right click to reset, but it's still made a duplicate, it just reset its location. So whenever you duplicate things and right click, it just resets the location, but it does not reset the duplicate. So you need to actually delete it. So we'll select this, shift click this and press shift D now to duplicate, and let's press Y to move it in the Y direction. Now we can just rotate this to however we want and place it wherever we want. Something like this maybe. Let's add a TV unit here and complete the scene just like the last one. So for the TV unit, it's going to be simple like last time. Shift A to add a plane, tab into edit mode, S to scale about this much, tab out of edit mode, move it around here, tab into edit mode, S and Y to scale, scale it till here, S to scale everything again, and this much seems good. Let's move it, tab to go into edit mode again, E to extrude and select this face, I to inset and click to confirm, and E to extrude backwards, and let's keep it around this much. And this is a simple unit or console for placing the TV. So let's add the TV as well. We are going to start again with another plane. So press shift A, mesh, plane to add a plane. Let's move it in location about here. R to rotate, X to lock it in the X direction, and press 90 to rotate it 90 degree. So press tab to edit, S to scale about this much, and S and Z to scale in the Z direction. Always move when in the edit mode, as you don't want the origin to be very far away from the object. So whenever I'm moving objects, you'll notice I'm in the object mode. So let's make the TV from this plane. So press tab to go into edit mode, click on the face to select the face, E to extrude this much, I to inset and E to extrude inwards, and this is the TV. Let's make a simple mount downwards. So working with it will be difficult with the room in the way, so I'll just press / to go into the local view. Now select this face, E to extrude and extrude as much as you want, and S to scale, and it will become something like this, and then you can move it back inwards. So it's a thin TV, so we'll just extrude it this much. It's similar to last time, I think. So E to extrude again to make a small rectangle so that we can use this face to extrude downwards. So let's just this time make it a little wide mounted base, something like that. So I'll just press this face, and I need to select this and this face around it. So what I can do is individually select these faces, but there's a neat trick in Blender. You select a face or an edge or point for that matter, and you click Ctrl and plus, and that will increase the selection. And if you press Ctrl minus, it will decrease the selection. So select the face you want to select, press Ctrl plus, and it will increase the selection. So now you press S and X to scale in the X direction only. So this much is okay, I think. Select this face, E to extrude downwards, and let's keep it this much, and E to extrude again, and a little more so that we get this face to extrude again. So let's E to extrude it outwards. About this much is good. So now we had a wide mount base TV. So press / to go out of local view. Now you'll notice that it is going below the cabinet that we made. So let's just move it up and place it around here. So now it's perfect. Let's just also duplicate this and this. So you'll notice we haven't parented them yet. So let's just parent them. Click on this, shift click on this, Control P, and set parent to object. So now if we move this, the cactus moves with it. So select both, Shift D to duplicate, Z to move it in the Z direction, and then we can move it freely. So I'll just place one on the cabinet here, or the bookshelf here, and let's just scale it down and rotate a little maybe. And now that you have scaled it in the object mode, so the scale is messed up, so always make sure to Control A and apply the scale. And you had selected both, so it applied the scale to both of them. Now let's see our final modifier for the day, which is the array modifier, and add some books to the scene. So I'm going to press Shift A, Mesh, and Cube to make a cube, and go into the local view by pressing /. So let's just go into edit mode, S, and scale it down, then S and X to scale it on the X axis. For this tutorial, I'm just going to leave it like this and call it a book, because what I'm going to demonstrate is mainly the array modifier. So let's see how the array modifier works. So it's pretty simple. You go to add modifier, generate an array, and you'll notice that we now have two books. So this is the relative offset, which adjusts the offset, or how much is the distance between the two objects, and this is the count. So we basically need only these two things to add an array to something. You can also add in X, Y, and Z, but you'll notice that it works in all directions at the same time. So if you look at it from the side view, it's moving it by 2.9 meters or 2.9 relative units to the x-axis, which is this direction, and 1.6 in this direction, and 0.6 in the z direction. This is actually relative to the size of object. So if let's say the object is this size, so it's actually moving if it's 3, so it's moving 3 times the x-axis unit to this side. So the x is moved by 3 times the width in x-axis, and the y is moved by 1.6 times the width in y-axis, and it's measured from the center to center. So let's say I had to keep it at 1, so it's taking from center. Let's make this 0 and this 0 for better explanation. So it's taking this center and making another duplicate at 1 width from this center to the next center. So it's a bit better explained if I increase it a little. So it's taking this much length and adding it to here. This is the relative offset. If you want a constant offset, you can do that as well. Let's turn off relative offset, turn on constant offset, and now you can just give Blender units as to how much you want to move the object from. So now you'll see that we have almost the same arrangement like last time, but it's actually 0.26 meters in the y direction. It gives more precise controls, but usually a relative offset is used as it's a bit more intuitive in terms of object size. So let's turn off the modifier or remove the modifier completely and add it when it's needed. So press front slash to go out of local mode, and let's move the book to where it's needed. So press tab, select everything by A, S to scale, and let's move it down. And let's add an array modifier, generate array. Let's give it a factor of 1.2 maybe. Let's increase the count. I'll now duplicate this whole object, so you don't need to duplicate the individual parts. I'll just select the book, Shift D and X to move it in the X direction, and increase the X offset and reduce the count to 3 to fit 3 books in here. And let's also go into edit mode and increase the thickness. So you'll notice when I'm increasing the thickness, the distance is also moved because the relative thickness is getting increased. So let's adjust it, and we're done. I also want some books here and here, so I'll just duplicate this again, Shift D to duplicate, X to move, and let's move it here, and let's increase the count, and let's do the same for this section, but let's rotate it by 90 degrees so the books are facing up. So Shift D to duplicate, Z to move it up, and place them around here, and let's R, Y and 90 degree. But you'll notice that it tilted downwards, so press negative, that it's negative 90 degrees, and click to confirm. Now just move the books wherever needed and reduce the array count. Let's duplicate it once more, press Y and Z and locate, place it where we want to, and duplicate these, Y, and let's place it like this. Let's add one more, and let's edit it and increase the scaling and reduce the array count. So we have a little variation of things going on, and so the scene does not look all the same. Now let's add some image frames to make the room a little more interesting, but basically our room is done. So I'll just speed through this part. So Shift A to add a plane, RX 90 degree to rotate it, move it in the Y, move it in the Z, tab to scale, tab to edit mode, S to scale, move it out till it's visible, tab to go into edit mode, it's still behind. So let's look at it from a different angle. Tab to edit mode, E to extrude, I to insert, and E to extrude inside. And let's scale it down, scale it on the x-axis to make a kind of a vertical frame. And let's just add an array modifier to it. Add modifier, generate array, and we'll keep using the relative offset, but let's add a little variation in the Y as well. Increase the count to 3, and we have a little more variation in the images than last time. Let's add one to this side as well, one big painting. Shift A, mesh, plane, R, Y, 90 degree, Z to move it up, X to move it backwards, tab into edit mode, S to scale, S and Y to scale it on the Y axis, SZ to scale it on the Z axis, E to extrude, I to insert, and E to extrude again a little inwards. And we are basically done. Let's scale it a little bit. And our scene is done. This is the result of the last 1 hour of work. So to go into rendered view on this side, you can just hover here and write scroll, hover here and scroll, and go into either the viewport shading, which is Blender's own shading, or you can go to this viewport shading, which is the actual rendered shading. So you'll see that everything went blank because there is no light in the scene, so there's nothing to calculate of. So let's just turn on the light, and we have some beautiful light in the scene already. Now let's go into the render properties and see which render engine we are using. It's by default in Eevee, or I'm not sure, but you can add it to Cycles, which is more realistic kind of thing, but it takes a lot more processing power. So unless you have a dedicated GPU, you should use Eevee. You can also turn on your GPU from here, but to actually turn it on, you have to go to Edit, Preferences, and in the system you can turn it to optics. So if I turn to optics, you can see my GPU here. So it is now actually enabled. So I'll just close it out, and now I can select GPU instead of CPU, which actually helps my render times and makes it faster. We also don't need this many samples in viewport and render, so I'll just make the max samples here 32 and the render 64. I'll also increase the noise threshold of viewport to 0.5, and for the render let's keep it to 0.1. So let's go first of all in the world tab, and we have a very dull color for the background, so let's just click on it and move it up. So we have a decent color which is adding the light to the scene. Now you can keep one view at rendered and one at simply this viewport shading, so you can see both the things, and this keeps things faster instead of taking too much processing power. Let's select the room first, go into the materials tab, and we already have a material on it because we use the default cube, so it comes with a default material. So let's click on the base color and select a color like this. If you have a reference, you can use that, and you can also click here and click this color picker and pick any color. In the latest versions, you can also go outside Blender and click on a image outside your render to pick the color also. So let's say you have a gradient image or any image, and you can pick colors from that even if it's outside your Blender. So I'll just pick colors from the outside for now. And if you want to do the same as mine, here is the hex code for this one. You can just input the code in the color panel. So let's add materials to other things as well. For this, let's create a new material. Let's name it wood, and let's select a color. Here's the hex code, and let's give the same color to this and this and this table. So to give the same color, you can actually click on the object and browse an already made material and click on the material to give the same material to the object. So let's just do this, and let's give the same material to the chairs as well. And don't forget the legs, since they are different objects, so they will need the different material. So maybe it looks a bit reddish, so I'll just adjust a little. Yeah, that looks good. And we can actually change the cabinet color to something like white. So I'll just remove the material. To remove a material, just click on this minus and the material will be removed. So let's click plus to add new material, click white, and it's already white by default, but it's not pure white. You can keep it pure white or keep it at this hex, but let's reduce the roughness so it is a little shiny. It's not very visible because other things don't have colors yet, so let's slowly keep adding colors. So click on the TV, press new, let's say TV base color, and let's choose something like this. For the books, let's add a new material, red. Let's give a similarly blue color to these books, and we will select all of the books in the scene. So click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and then in the end let's select the book that has colors. So now we are going to transfer this color to all of the books or objects that are selected. So to do that, press Ctrl L and link materials. So now you will see that all of the books in the scene are red now. Now let's select some of these and give it the blue color instead. Yeah, I think that's better. And we can always remove a material, add a new one, and change the base color to whatever we like. So let's add a new material for the sofa and the rug. So we'll select the sofa, click new, and let's name it sofa, and let's give it a greenish type color, greenish blue, and let's give the same color to the rug as well. Now only our cactus is left, so we'll give it a brown material for the pot and a green. Let's use the same green, or let's make a new green. Make sure to color the other cactus as well and the other pot as well. Lastly, we are going to add a white to these frames. So now the basic colors are done. Let's talk a little more advanced about the textures. So let's say we want a different color for the base of the room than the walls of the room. So what we're going to do is select the room and add a new material slot. So let's name this one walls. So we'll click plus and click plus new to add a new material. So let's name it floor, and we are going to add a floor to this part. How we are going to do is press tab into edit mode, and let's press / just to isolate the room, and click and select this face. Now what we can do is click on the floor and click assign to assign this color to the floor. Now you'll notice that we do get a little bit of edge like this, which gives the separation. So if you don't want that, what you can do is you can, before assigning all this, you can just go into the modifiers and apply the solidify modifier. So now if you go into edit mode, all this geometry is real, the room is already solid and the modifier is made. So now if you select this, only this face, go into materials, click on floor and assign it, only this floor will be affected. So it has now a different material and the walls have a different material. So now let's actually edit the floor. Let's say something like this. And similarly, we want to add a different material for the face of the painting. So we'll add another material, click on new, or what we can do is we can just go into this material and assign any material that we have already made and click on assign, and the color will be changed. Similarly, let's do it for this, but you'll notice that if we add a new material and let's give it, let's say, a sofa color, and go into edit mode, click on the face that we want to assign it to and assign it, click on the sofa color and assign it, you'll see that all of these will get the same color. So if you want all of them to have different color, you can similarly apply the array modifier, and now everything will be different. So you'll just need to add a new slot, select the color you want, let's say this green too, and assign, and it will get a different green. Let's say for the third one you need to add this green and assign. So all three of these are different now. Lastly, what we can do is change the intensity of the light, because I think it's too much by default. It's at 1000, we don't need that much. Let's make it 150, about 150, and also the location of the light. Let's move the light about here. So let's just delete this default light and press Shift A, mesh. Let's just remove all the lighting from the scene by making the background very dark, something like this. So now let's add an HDRI to the scene, which will greatly improve our lighting. So go to the world tab, click on the color and click on environment texture. Now everything goes pink. So whenever Blender shows something in pink color, that means something is missing. So in our case, we have an environmental texture missing. So click on open, and you can download HDRIs from the websites given in the description, like HDRI Heaven, Polyheaven, etc. And let's just choose this Photoshop and open image. And now you will see that we already have lighting in the scene without even adding a light, an actual light. So all of this is being done by the HDR. So I did not name anything in this tutorial, but it's always good to name your layers. So I'll just do that right now. So now that we have successfully renamed things, let's add a sun lamp. And let's rotate it a little to give a bit of interesting lighting, like this maybe. And you can always go into the world tab and decrease the strength of the HDRI to something like 0.75 or 0.5 if you think it's too harsh of a light. So I think I like this result. I might tweak a few things, colors and textures here and there. We did not go anything advanced about the textures this time because the tutorial is already about 2 hours length in real time right now. So we'll cover that in a later video, maybe. But this is basically the result of today's tutorial. And just before we end this, I forgot to tell, but to render the scene, click on render and render image, and it will render out the scene for you. And to save the image, once the render is complete, go on image, click on save, and go to the directory where you want to save it and just name it anything. If the name already exists, it will show it in red. You can just click on plus and it will add one more to the last digit, and click on save as image. So that was it for the part 2 of intro to beginner course, and I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a bit too much with the modifiers, I think, but take it slowly and check each individual modifier once at a time. So I hope you learned something from it. Join the Discord, join the Instagram channel for regular Q&As and to ask any questions if you have. Probably me or someone else will answer it in the Discord. So yeah, definitely join it. The ebook will be in the description as well with the basic shortcuts and some more hotkeys. So make sure to check that out as well. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.